Greetings from the Congregational Church of Batavia. I'm the Reverend David Ezekiel, interim pastor. And the Easter message for us is, where do we go from here? Now, it is somewhat fitting that it is Easter, the end of our Lenten long journey through the dark wood. It is certainly not the end of all our journeys through dark woods, for we will always find ourselves in those dark wood moments anytime we face challenges and difficulties in our lives. Such journeys are often accompanied by moments of pain, loss, worry, grief, fear, doubt, anger, frustration, even lostness. And they are the unintended and unexpected parts of our journeys. No one plans to pass through the dark wood. No one chooses to be in those moments of hurt and ambiguity. Such journeys are complicated and trying, to be sure, but they are journeys that also reveal unanticipated blessings, even in the midst of the struggle. As we have discovered, the challenge of uncertainty reveals opportunity to trust in God. The challenge of being emptied makes room for God in our lives. The challenge of being thunderstruck reveals flashes of God's inspiration and guidance among the ordinariness of our days. The challenge of getting lost allows us to be found by a God of immeasurable love. The challenge of temptation reveals our truest and most genuine call to God's work in this world. The challenge of disappearing relinquishes all the false labels that restrict us and allow us to claim the true name of beloved child of God. And the challenge of being a misfit reveals our most authentic and essential community of others who are traveling through the dark wood with us. And all of these aspects, all of these challenges certainly describe us in recent days, even now, doesn't it? In worship services across the world on Easter Sunday, leaders call out, "Christ is risen," and the assemblage will respond, "He is risen indeed." Yet we cannot do that today, and it seems so strange. The Gospel according to Mark gives us good reason to be sure that things were hardly so easy even on that first Easter. As Mark tells the story, the discovery of Jesus' empty tomb and the message that he is alive doesn't immediately evoke joy, wonder, relief, praise, confidence, excitement, or even a desire to tell others. Instead, the experience leads to flight, silence, and terror. This is what moments in the dark wood often evoke within us. But when you find yourself there, allow your soul to discover those blessings to which the Spirit will guide you and will reveal to you. Now, we've spent 7 weeks discussing these blessings and unpacking the ways that they affect our lives and our faith. And during most of those weeks, we have had our lives disrupted as we've gone through our own dark wood with the effects of the coronavirus. So now the question is, where do we go from here? To answer that question, we're going to walk through one of our scripture stories that is a dark wood journey in and of itself, the resurrection of Jesus. And we're going to discover that for Peter, Easter was another dark wood moment. Now think about this recent run of events for Peter. It was just Thursday that Peter had affirmed that he would never deny Jesus as they sat at the table. Yet it was just a few hours later that he vehemently denied knowing Jesus. Peter had tried to protect Jesus with a sword, yet he ran away when the soldiers seized Jesus. Peter followed from a distance as the soldiers carried Jesus away, yet Peter ultimately slinked away into the shadows. It was to Peter that Jesus stated that he would rise on the third day, yet Peter does not go to the tomb with an expectancy of finding Jesus. Other gospel writers tell that when he did go to the tomb, it was only out of curiosity. Then he goes back to wherever he was and states that he was just going to go back to work as a fisherman. But very succinctly, allow me to point out 5 things about Peter in his dark wood moments. He had failed. He was feeling like a failure, and he was feeling forsaken. But now, on Easter, God was holding out the promise of forgiveness and the promise of a future. And this is why the angel tells Mary to go and tell the disciples and Peter to come and meet the risen Jesus in person. For you, if you're feeling like you have failed and that you are a failure in life, and maybe you are feeling forsaken, Jesus holds out for you this Easter the same promise of forgiveness and the same promise of a future. And the invitation is extended not only to Peter, but to you too, to meet the risen Lord of all creation. He wants to meet you too. Even if, like Peter, you have nothing to bring to the meeting but maybe stupidity and stubbornness, fear and self-protection, betrayals and cowardice. Even if, as Kate Laser writes in an Easter hymn, you can't imagine why anyone should love you, a creature made of earth. Even if every mortal fragment of you shrinks from a rebirth, Jesus wants you to go to Galilee, for he will see you there. And I think that is so important for us that we will spend the next several sessions unpacking the promises of a future. But thinking back to the first Easter, it was not a magical moment when the past was all over in an instant. Rather, Easter was an unfolding reality. And that is certainly true for us today. I do not know what the unfolding reality will look like for any of us individually, as a congregation, or even as a nation. But beloved, on this side of the cross, I may not know the future, but I do know the one who not only knows the future, but holds it in his nail-scarred hands. That is a wonderful promise for us. Now, we know the outcome of that dark wood story, and we can know that the resurrection of Jesus means that he is with us in our own dark wood story. For the viral outbreak has caused dark wood moments for many. Family and members and friends die, and we cannot be with them. Family members are sick and in the hospital, and we cannot be there to reassure them and hold their hands as we have to maintain social distancing. Our jobs are in jeopardy. Our income is imperiled. Our 401k has become a 201k. Our societal fabric is stretched way beyond imagination. The ways in which we do worship and ministry has been significantly upended. This is an extraordinary time for humanity. Many of us never imagined we would be doing ministry in these types of ways, trying to stay connected while being isolated. Things are changing and unfolding to such an extent that we don't know how to imagine the next few weeks. In my role of supporting churches in their worship, I began to look through worship materials that I had prepared over the years for the Easter season. Would there be anything that could address these unprecedented times? But yet, there is. The Easter season message of resurrection, promise of a future in the midst of death, is the essence of what it means to be on this human journey. Certainly not all times are as intense or poignant as this one seems to be, but over time and history, we have seen this story play out again and again. And here's the synopsis from Easter for Peter and for you. After the events of Holy Week, the disciples are devastated. They are in the midst of full-blown grief and disbelief. And into the heart of that grief came a stunning revelation. Life had overcome death. Love had won out over violence. God's faithfulness would build them up once again and will bind them together. Is this possible in our lives? Today's worship will say, yes, it can. Come and see, live in love. This is the heart of the matter. It may feel odd to be moving into the season of Easter, a season of celebration in the midst of these difficult times. Perhaps it is an opportunity to challenge ourselves to feel deeply what it means that at the heart of the Christian faith, we are called to live our lives in the belief that death is not the final word. This is why Christians are called Easter people. It becomes the womb for new life. We cannot wait for everything to be all right to proclaim our Easter faith of resurrection hope. And so we, like so many Christians under duress since those first disciples, are invited to worship our everlasting God and do what we can to help people continue to worship wherever they are. That is why I am honored to be in ministry alongside you. My prayers and my heart are with you. So allow me to offer you this blessing. May the Spirit of the living God, made known to us most fully within life's dark wood, go before you to show you the way, go above you to watch over you, go behind you to push you into places you may not necessarily go yourself, go beneath you to uphold and uplift you, go beside you to be your strong and constant companion, and dwell within you to remind you that you are surely not alone and that you are loved, loved beyond your wildest imagination. And may the fire of God's blessing burn brightly upon you and within you, now and always. Amen. Amen. Beloved, happy Easter to you.